Hi, this is Alicia, and this is the video in which I'll rant. Recently, I fell down a booktube hole of a whole bunch of videos of booktubers listing off their top frustrations in books. And it really got me thinking, and I really wanted to do one as well. But it took me a while to make a list of only 5 things that I can't stand anymore. There's just so many tropes and cliches and character types that I am so bored with, or that are just, they're things that aren't being done well, and I think it's something that just needs to stop, or it needs to get worked on so it's better than it is. Most of the points that I'm going to talk about are tropes and character types that other booktubers are also frustrated with. Although I will say that my last point is probably one that is very specific to me or a small population. At least that's what I am assuming. It's just a smaller population of people. Now, of course, if there's anything that I list that you personally don't feel that it's an issue, that it's not something that you are upset about in a book, that's totally fine. That's your opinion. These are just the list of things for me that really turn me off of a book and are just, I feel that most books can do without, or it's something that a book could be better. Maybe if it was just worked on a little bit more, if there was just a little bit more effort put into rounding out the story as it needs to be. I'm sure you will not be surprised to find out that the first trope that I have the most issue with is the love triangle. This is something that has frustrated me for years. If I know that there's going to be a love triangle in a novel, I will not pick it up. If I see that it is about to happen, like I see that's where the book is going, I will stop reading it, because I just feel so exhausted by it, and I just, in dealing with it and trying to deal with all of these angsty emotions that I am just tired of. I find that a lot of books, I don't even understand why there is a love triangle. It almost seems like somebody kind of thought that maybe there should be a love story, but couldn't decide on what kind of character they wanted their lead character to be in, and then a love triangle was formed. When I think of this, I am mainly thinking of the Hunger Games series. In all 3 of the books, Katniss is trying to be killed. People are trying to kill Katniss. Each book, she's fighting for her life and other people's lives. Why is a love story even a big thing? You should not be trying to decide which guy you like the most when people are trying to kill you. I just feel like it's unnecessary. And I mean, I feel like there was a lot of people that were really into it for the love story between Peeta and Katniss, or Gale and Katniss, and if you are, great. But for me, I just felt like, maybe try not to get killed. Maybe don't worry about it. And I don't understand why Gale couldn't have just been a good friend. What do you lose in just having a male character be strictly platonic friends with a female character? And I also find that that's something that can be said for a lot of triangles as well. There is not necessarily a reason for romantic love or lust. It is put in there because the author or the editor or whoever it is felt that a opposite sex characters couldn't just be platonic friends. And it's this belief that society has that males and females who are both straight cannot be friends with each other. And I think they can, and I think that you can have that in a book. And I think I would also relate, and I would probably relate more to a character that had the boy that she loved and who she can still be angsting over. I mean, angst is also exhausting, but I am more willing to accept the angst over one person. So, you know, your female character is really angsty over this one guy, and then she has another guy who is just her best friend. And no, there's no sexual lust, but that's okay, because you don't always have to have lust and passion for your best friend if they're of the opposite sex. So there are a whole bunch of other avenues that I could take to talk about the love triangle, but for now I will try and leave it at that, because otherwise this whole video will just be me ranting about the love triangle. The second thing in books that just needs to go is this unrealistic woman. Now, when I say unrealistic woman, I am not talking Barbie. I'm talking about either blobs or the badass woman. So before you're right away like, Alicia, how can you say you don't like badass women? I do. Well, wait a second, I'll get there in a second. I'm gonna start with the blob. The blob is the girl who is just, she has no emotion. Her characterization is shallow and there's not much about her. She is not a real person. She is not really thought about. And I think she came around in relation to authors or editors or whoever wanting to have the main female character be a character that anybody could relate to. Any girl could read this and project herself into that role. And while I see where that's coming from, I think that in creating a blob for everybody to project themselves into, you are creating a character that is in itself unrealistic. I was watching a YouTuber called Francine Simone, who is amazing in all ways, and she was saying how the unformed female character can also come from authors just wanting so many things from one character and not knowing really where to go with them. And in that, the character just ends up being bland because you want so much from her and you don't have it. And I also see that's where it happens. And, you know, you read characters, and I'm gonna go back to the Hunger Games, and I'm not trying to rip on the Hunger Games, but it keeps coming to my mind. But for me, the character of Katniss felt very unformed, and there was so many things that she did that just didn't seem to fit with this character that we had been giving and had been reading through. So, and I mean, Suzanne Collins created a beautiful world in the Hunger Games, but her characterization, and specifically Katniss, I felt suffered from that. And I know a lot of people had gotten so mad at me for saying that about the Hunger Games, and I'm not bashing the Hunger Games because I did enjoy the series and I thought the world and the games were beautiful. It was just, there were so many times where I felt Katniss was so many different things, but not real. And flaws that are given to these characters, and not just Katniss, but everyone, are not real flaws. Their flaws are, I am clumsy. That's not a flaw. I think being clumsy is just, it's a characteristic, but not a flaw. I am a clumsy person. It is not in my list of flaws. It's just an extra little quirk that goes along with me. But maybe that's just me, but I personally feel like there needs to be something bigger, and you need to just make this blob into a person. I think that girls are more likely to see themselves or connect with and identify with a fully formed character, a fully formed woman who they can read about and say, she's pretty selfish, but you know what? I do that too. Maybe I'm a little bit selfish. Like, and maybe that's not a good thing to them, reading about them being selfish, but I think in a way that they will connect more with the character, or even if they get mad at the character for being selfish. What's wrong with that? Eliciting an emotional response is not a bad thing. So, for that reason, the emotionless blob needs to change. And now, of course, with a badass woman, which I mentioned, I am not against badass female characters. I would love fantastic badass female characters. My issue comes from the, once again, unformed badass. Her entire personality, who she is, her identifier is badass. There is no depth or personality. There is no real love or passion or jealousy, anger, or just fucking flaws. Again, flaws. She has none. All emotion that she feels, say she's in love with somebody, the love feels shallow and unreal, and the same comes from anger. It's like anger is already built into her, so, you know, if she gets mad and she gets angry, it doesn't matter. She was already mad and angry. And again, while I believe that the badass female character was meant to be something for females to look at and aspire to or worship or whatever, in making her unrealistic, once again, this is a character that a girl or woman or anybody could ever hope to be. You cannot purely live as a badass. And what's wrong with a badass character having depth? And while I'm thinking of a well done badass character, I have it in my head. Now I know it's from TV, but I think that a fantastic example of a badass female who is well formed is the character of Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Again, I know this is a TV show and not a book, but she is who I think of as well. She is badass. Nobody denies that she is badass, but you also see emotion in that character. And sure, you also see that she doesn't like emotion. She's uncomfortable with emotion, but at least that is addressing her emotion. And there's also this past to her and these other things that she likes, which while you don't see them a lot, you know that, okay, she also loves chick flicks and, you know, she goes and sees musical movies. And I love that. I love that you can have, she still remains a badass. No matter what she does that could be like too girly or too feminine, she's still a badass. Who would want to meet her in real life and have done something wrong? Because I know I wouldn't. So I'm gonna stick with her being continually a badass despite some more feminine likes that are put on her. Women have layers, they have passions and desires and flaws. Again, I know I have a counter up saying how many times I say flaws, but they're real. So make them real, make them easy to identify with, make them a full character that people can have emotional reaction to. It's okay. People will still enjoy your book, but they might actually enjoy it more. My third point is the Romantic Stalker. The Romantic Stalker is this boyfriend creation who loves his girlfriend or his soon-to-be girlfriend or whatever to the point of obsession, and it gets really creepy. Think of Edward Cullen watching Bella sleep, even before they were together. That's creepy. That is not romantic. That is creepy. And yet it is romanticized, and things like that continue to be romanticized. You read books and this guy is so obsessed with his girlfriend or what she does, and he needs to be there, he needs to own her and watch her, and it's uncomfortable. That is a problematic relationship. But it's not said to be a problematic relationship. And that's where my issue comes in. If it was a book about how, maybe a guy who is this obsessed with you is not a good thing, it is depicted as this romantic thing. Like, don't you want a boyfriend who comes into your room at night and watches you sleep? Don't you want a boyfriend who doesn't like you talking to other men? Don't you want a boyfriend who texts you every hour wanting to know where you are and who you're talking to? That is awful. That is terrible. I, for the longest time, thought that was what you needed. You needed a guy who was just so in love with you and so passionate, because that's what I kept reading in all of these books, and I had this romantic notion. And then I went out with a guy like that. It is not cool. It is uncomfortable and creepy and stifling. And it's not, and I don't think that even if you're in love with them, it's still problematic. I mean, you have to be your own person. Both parties in a relationship need to be able to function without the other. This romantic notion that you love each other so much and you can't be parted is awful. Think about only having that one person in your life. Think about never being away from them. Maybe it sounds like a good idea right now. Maybe, in a year you're still like, I could never be without them. Let's say your love lasts. Can you really stand beside this person for 30 years or more? All the time? You don't have any friends of your own. You don't have a life outside him. Again, exhausting. Who can live like that? Who can live in this passion for so long? Passion is great, but you need to exist outside of it. You need your significant other to exist outside of it. And yet we're constantly fed this notion that you need to have somebody who's so obsessed with you that they cannot be their own person. And that's kind of creepy. My fourth frustration comes in the form of the evil partner. I'm sure we have all seen this before. A boy and girl meet and one of them is already in a relationship. So they are friends or for a while, or maybe they're enemies or whatever. And this partner continues to exist, which makes the one of them unattainable. And when you meet this partner, this other person, they are assholes. They're just terrible people. So you automatically hate this other person, this partner. They are a terrible person and they are getting in the way of this relationship. They need to go. My problem is that is there no other reason why a relationship could fall apart? I mean, relationships fall apart all the time between two really good, inherently good people. So why can't a relationship just end naturally? You see this a lot in young adult books, and I mean, can anybody really blame it if at 16 somebody's like, man, that girl is just not right for me? Well, fuck yeah, you're 16. You're probably gonna grow out of the girlfriend you had into another girlfriend or boyfriend or, all of the other people that you could be with. You have your whole life ahead of you at 16. So you could just grow apart. Or is there even not anything else that could be there to make a character unattainable? My biggest issue, I think, comes when it is a male who has a side girlfriend and, there's this romantic entanglement and lust between the other female. And what happens is this female hatred. You get that Taylor Swift song playing how, that girl's not right for you. I'm right for you. I know it's you better. But why? Why does that happen? Why does there need to be this created girl hate for a guy? I think it just continues this narrative of girls must hate girls. The same can also be said for the female with a angry male boyfriend who is friends with a male. Now, usually this friend male is smaller, geekier, and nothing like this giant angry male. And what comes of this relationship instead is this testosterone-filled battle of which male wins the beautiful girl. And I mean, it's just a narrative that you hear all the time. And in the end, it's gonna obviously be the geeky boy, and you know, the giant muscular male will go off and sulk. Because despite the fact that he is bigger and likes to pretend that he is the best, he has been proven to be less of a man. And I mean, again, the same thing can happen. A boyfriend can just be a good boyfriend, and maybe him and his girlfriend aren't getting along. Maybe it's nothing to do with his macho-ness, and it is more to do with that, you know, maybe he really likes spending his time playing football and he just doesn't have enough time for a relationship. Maybe he's moving. I mean, the partner doesn't have to be evil. There doesn't have to be a partner. There can just be something else. It's just, I don't know. Stop making hatred where hatred is not there. My final point, and I know that this is something that's probably very personal to me. I feel like a lot of you will probably disagree with me, and that's okay. I'm totally okay with that. I couldn't take this one off my list, and that is happy endings. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you've probably heard me talk about my being cynical and bitter. And probably if you've sat through this and you've listened to my other things that I dislike, you'll notice that a lot of them have to do with love. I am not a loveless person. I just get exhausted by it because there's just so much angsty emotion that just feels like it's being done again and again and again, and you're kind of sick of it. And my dislike for happy endings comes from just wanting something different. Everything ends with a neat bow tie. It's the ones that don't that really, really get me, and that are usually my favorites because I find them more realistic. Things aren't perfect. Life sucks. And I know that a lot of people read books to get away from that, which is why I'm not saying that happy endings are something that should go away from books, because people do need happy endings. And there are times when I do want to read a book that I know is just going to be a sweet little read. But there's also this, I'm not alone in life sucking. Yeah, life sucks for everybody. Let's just bask in the suckiness of it. And the happy ending also extends to fantasies and science fictions and dystopians and all of those where there is this huge, massive battle or war and fighting, and none of the main characters die, or like one of them. And you're like, come on, seriously, you went through all of this and nobody died? I find that highly unrealistic. You're teenagers, you're gonna die. But again, people need a happy ending and people would die. If Harry Potter did die in the last book, people would have been devastated and the emotional outcry would have been insane. But a part of me also is like, well, I mean, he should have died. How could he have possibly have survived all of that? And it's the same with Hermione and Ron. Seriously, all three of them lived? I mean, I'm happy that they didn't die. Obviously, I'm not saying that I wanted the whole trio to be killed off. I'm just saying that, you know, you're 17. Like, adults got killed and you didn't. I don't know what else to say. And again, I'm sure a lot of you are like, I can't believe you just said that. You want to kill off the golden trio? I don't want to kill off the golden trio. I just like books that are not always tied up in a package, and that is why I'm saying that I do not like happy endings. But I still continue to read books that have happy endings, and if it ends happily, then, you know, I'll probably smile. It's not a big of a book putting downer as the love triangle or the unformed female. But it is something that sometimes at the end you're like, well, that kind of, it was great up until the end when nothing happened, really. So that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I know a lot of this probably sounded like ranting. I really tried to restrain myself. Sometimes I can get really worked up and passionate when talking about things that I dislike, and especially in relation to books. But I really didn't want this to be like a whole bunch of me just like screaming at my camera, because nobody wants to watch that. Hopefully you enjoyed it though. If you have any characters or tropes or cliches that you're just really sick of in books, feel free to comment. And if you disagree with me, I mean, let me know. I promise to try and not be offended. If your issue is the happy ending comment, I fully take that you probably disliked that, and I will accept that without being offended. But let me know, because I think it's an interesting topic, and what people like and dislike about books is super fascinating. So let me know. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where I try and be super funny. I mean, I don't succeed, again, trying. But anyway, I'm on both of those at Literary Hermit, and I'll tag those below. And again, like, comment, subscribe, and I will be back on the weekend. Hopefully, I feel like I'm getting sick, so hopefully I will not be on the verge of death on Sunday when I shoot, but I will talk to you later. Bye!